Hey everybody, it's Scott Sandler from HypnoThoughts Live, and I am speed dating. And the reason for that is because HypnoThoughts Live is the world's largest hypnosis conference, and there are so many amazing presenters sharing such cool stuff that the biggest piece of negative feedback we get every year is they're overwhelmed by choices. So what we want to do for all of you attendees is give these videos. So I'm talking to all the pre and post conference presenters, 10 or 15 minutes, keep it fast like speed dating, and then you get to know them, their content, their career, whatever it's going to be that's going to help you make the best decision for you. And so I am joined today by a person who's been a pre and post conference presenter for us before. She's been a presenter at the conference. I've known her for a long time, and she's just got great content. And that's Amber Cox. Amber, how are you?
Hi, Scott. I am fantastic and just so happy to have this opportunity to share.
So, like I said, you and I have known each other for a while. You've been coming to a lot of conferences, HypnoThoughts Live obviously being one of them. What are you bringing this year to the conference, into the pre and post conference?
So bringing a few different things, and primarily it's driven by how to deal with emotions. So the things that I'm doing for the brief talks in between are really gearing up for my one day, which is all about creating a construct, a framework for the emotional journey that we're creating with our client and ourselves to set both up for the best success possible.
Yeah, as I was reading your description, when we were putting together who we wanted and what we were going to take, the idea of that sort of narrative journey that the client is going on and giving them space and a framework so that you can utilize that journey is such a smart and important thing, because I see a lot of people who are paying so much attention to phenomena, which is great, that they forget that this is new for the client, and we need to give them that opportunity.
Yeah.
Where did this come from? Like this idea, like what's going on in your work with clients that informed this?
So this has really been an evolution, and the construct is actually based on communication patterns, but it's within the construct of emotional intelligent development because emotions drive everything. And so what I found is when I came across emotional intelligence, actually Beryl Komar was the first person that I heard talking about it. And I had been doing hypnosis for a while, and hypnosis is a powerful tool. I had other tools, I had lots of techniques, but I didn't have a framework for it. And what emotional intelligence did is it provided a framework that was four-dimensional. So what that did was it allowed to take the client on a journey that not only addressed the most important relationship, which is with self, but also addressed the relationship with other people. So it kind of brings everything full circle. Not only that, what it does is it's a systemized approach. And there's a thing about systems thinking and systems in life and a systems approach that shows that when you have a system that sets you up more for success and longer term success. And that's not just talking about the client, it's talking about the hypnotist. The tools are great, the techniques are great, we need those. However, it's not about throwing something out that sticks. It's about really doing the journey with your client and knowing, like, what do they really need? And is it safe for the client? Are you checking the ecology? Are you in rapport with them? Are you able to measure and follow up? Are they retaining what you're doing? Because even though we can, address change and do it very quickly, is it always the safest and best? And how do we know that that change is sticking? I've had many clients that have come in and yes, they got change or they got relief. However, something else came up that was even actually probably more important to address. So
And then you have to incorporate that into this whole journey, right? Like you have to figure out where that fits. It's not just, okay, we're going to put everything else on hold. It's they came for these things. This is more important, but we need to understand how all these things fit in I'm going to call it the wellness or the outcomes of this client.
The whole journey, it's like, are you cross-pollinating the ecology to not just being, I'm safe with this change with myself. However, I have to go out in the world and all my interpersonal relationships and all the other places that I'm in. Can I do this? Can I sustain this with those primary relationships? I find that and this is actually from a lot of the work that I did in the medical field. which I've worked in a lot. And I had the opportunity to work and develop a whole coaching model that was myself and two other coaches, and it was all about rapport and safe outcomes for patients.
Mhm.
And it was developed on establishing rapport. And when you're in good rapport, people are more open to listen to you, more compliant, to do what you say, to trust you, to share with you. And so that's incredibly important there, because also there's what I incorporate, and I believe a lot of people that do what we do, there's also a training, there's an education piece of it, that they're learning tools that when they leave, they can apply them. And statistically, the ratios, there's an expansion, but in the medical field, the percentages, and this was based on research of and I can give you the link of the research or the name, but basically when patients come into an appointment or to see a doctor, when they leave, they retain, they lose about 80% of what they're
Right.
told. And what happens is they come back, they don't follow through, they don't take their medications, there's readmittances. So how does that translate to what we do? I've had so many clients that come back and they're not understanding or remembering everything that we did. And that's really important to support and facilitate the change in their outer world, not just with me.
So when I was thinking about your course, it immediately popped into my mind a personal story. So I'm going to make this about me for a second. When I was running the clinic, and we had, I don't know, 10-ish, depending on when we were about 10 hypnotherapists working in this clinic. And there was one that I was supervising, as she was just kind of onboarding and learning. And she had just come from learning a new set of techniques. And she had just come from like a week-long training. And she was qualified and fantastic. And her desire to help the client meant she was overloading the session. So, and I'm oversimplifying, but when she should have been doing one technique, she was doing 3 techniques. Or when she should have been addressing one issue, she was addressing 3. And it was coming from a good place and wanting to help. And everything she was doing was technically fantastic in and of itself, but it didn't, like, it was overwhelming to the clients. And so they weren't getting the benefit of all the work. And as I was talking with her, I said, look, you're putting 3 sessions worth of stuff into one session. And she's like, yeah, I'm providing all this value. They're going to love it. And I was like, no, like, it's, if you pour 3, cups of milk into 1 cup of milk, you've got a bunch of milk on the counter. And so figuring out the capacity of your client over time and making sure you're giving them the amount of change that fits in their life, like going back to your ecology, making sure you're not giving them stuff that's going to be, in the vacuum of your office, the best, but in the reality of their life, disruptive or wasted or something like that.
Yeah, 100%. And those are such important, because I think what we get in the trap is, because we're hypnotists, it's very specialized. You can do a lot of change in a short period of time. And I think that sometimes we get too caught up in that, because we have all these techniques and we want to make the change. And, and we talk about, and are proud of the fact that we can influence, help to facilitate change very quickly.
Sure.
However, that being said, that's not always the best approach,
Yeah.
because again, to what you said, if you pour a cup of, 3 cups of milk into a cup, it's going to spill over. And we also want them to be able to retain, take it with them, and in a relatively short period of time, because I'm talking here about like 4 to 6 sessions.
Yeah, a manageable thing to keep
You
in
can
our
do,
heads.
yeah, so much more. Your work will benefit and long term be much more sustainable for the client. Also, it addresses safety. I recently had a client come to me for smoking. Pretty straightforward. A counselor recommended him to me. He stopped smoking in the first session. I always, no matter what, I follow this model. I follow this model for safety. So I spent 2 hours with him. I do spend a lot of time, especially up front, because I want to be in deep rapport with my client. I really want to be in that journey with them. And when I followed up, he had stopped smoking, but he was really, really angry, like mean angry. And so I had him come back in, and the emotion that came up was really, really heavy, and it was a safety issue. It had been, he had been abused with cigarettes when he was young,
Oh, wow.
and he did not share that with me. And it was kind of his last tie to the connection with his parents, because they would burn him with cigarettes.
Right.
Now, that's just, I've had other, obviously, other, as we all have, witnessed emotions coming up after. So what this process also does is allow to check on that client and measure the change, the safety, the efficacy, everything, so that we're not like making the change and then it's like, okay, bye bye. But that client's
Right.
left with something super uncomfortable. What this does is it raises the bar of professionalism for what we do. That we're not just a one trick pony. We are out there, like, working as professionals, raising the bar for the modalities that we use and what's in our toolkit. And so having a framework and a structure of dealing with an emotional construct, because everything's driven by emotions. That's what we're dealing with: emotion, behavior. Emotion pushes the behavior. So if you can drop and take your skills that you're comfortable with and plug and play them into these quadrants where you're creating one, the change with self and the awareness, then the regulation training, and then checking the ecology when that
Right.
person is out with other people and other relationships, then you're cross-pollinating all of this together so that it's the whole.
Yeah.
And I do believe, to me, I'm very invested in raising the bar for our profession, because what we do, our skill set is very unique. It's very powerful. It's still very underutilized. And so I think having these systems and constructs are so, so important to what we do
Of course.
for our reputation, for our results, for our referrals, safety, everything that I spoke about.
Yeah. And like I said at the beginning of this, you and I have known each other at conferences, for many years. And your commitment to that has been consistent in the entire time I've known you. Your desire to raise the bar for our profession and our modality, which are two separate things, but they're, connected. Like, your commitment to doing that has been a through line in our relationship, is that being a priority for you. And just so the people who are watching this know, like, that's not something Amber's saying, that's something Amber's doing.
Mhm.
And that matters. So to those of you guys who are watching, if you saw this and you're like, oh, that sounds pretty cool, that's the kind of work that I want to do, or that's what I'm looking for, we're going to make this super simple. You go to htlive.net, and right there's a link for all the pre and post conference courses. Amber, it's a one-day post, if I have that correct.
It is
Um,
one day,
yeah.
Monday, July 24th, one
Monday,
day.
July 24th, you guys show up, you've been at the conference, you roll right into this, and it's going to help you take all the stuff that you were learning during the conference itself and synthesize it into what you're going to be doing when you get home. So you're not doing what the person I was talking about said. So thanks for watching this. By the way, share this video with people that you think it might be relevant for, so that they can find the right classes for them. And Amber, it's always great talking with you, and I'm looking forward to hanging out with you some more this summer in Vegas.
Thank you. I really appreciate it.
You
Thank you
bet.
so much.